All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Low Code Campfire, episode number 43. Man, I cannot believe we're up to 43 episodes. Today, we're going to talk about beta testing version 1.20 and whatever else is on your mind. We do this for our community on Fridays, 10 a.m. Central Time. This is an all skill levels welcome gathering that we can just get together and talk about what's going on in low code in general, plant and app in specific. And so please bring whatever challenges that you're facing. All these episodes are recorded on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/plantandapp. Make sure you subscribe to that. We have a pretty informal agenda. This is a meeting format, so we do first call, just what we say hello, first call. We look at contributions that people have made to our community website. And oftentimes we get together for a segment where we turn off the recording afterwards and do afterglow. But with all that's going on internally to try and get version 1.20 out to you, we have a meeting scheduled immediately after this. So we're going to cancel that today. But with that, very few guidelines. Be nice. And if you've got noise going on behind you, then please mute. You can submit questions and topics in advance. That link is in the emails that we send to you. And then you can also use this QR code. And with that, I will say hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, y'all.
Hey, Jeff. With that, we'll jump right to first call. What's going on? What's on your mind? Don't be shy.
So I have a question about hot fixes. So we're on Evoke, and we recently put on 1.19 plant and app, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that some of the stuff we brought up at a campfire either a week or two ago has been implemented, and it's being rolled into 1.20. But I want to make sure that the hot fixes are going to be available for 1.19, because we're not going to be able to keep up with the releases, given that plan app 1.20 requires Evoke 9.9, I think it was.
Yes.
So we're going to be a little bit behind. I just want to make sure that the hot fixes are coming for 1.19.
Well, we can talk about specific ones. Typically, I mean, I don't. I guess I'm saying, what particular features are you interested in looking for that you're seeing? I mean, 120 is going to be 120, right? So.
Yeah, so I think Patrick can probably help me out, but it was to do with the JSON date formatting, and yeah, Patrick helped me out.
Yeah. Hold on a second. I just.
You put him on the spot.
I sure did. Sorry about that, Patrick.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No problem at all.
Just in general, while Patrick is looking at that, I mean, some things we can hotfix. We go back and do them in the old versions and the new, but a ton of stuff just happens in the new version and it doesn't happen in the old. And
sure. How do we get clarity on what is going to be rolled in? So rather than putting Patrick on the spot, a general question.
You're talking about just to confirm, because I'm looking back at my notes, and you're talking about the pulling in of the dates and their formats, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it'll be this, like you've seen Dale demonstrate. There's a lot of changes coming as far as dates, and yeah, a lot of those won't be included. But I think that we can take a more focused look at that and see what we can do there.
Okay. So I guess more of the general question, what is the process to get something put into a hotfix for an older version of PlanNav? Is that something that we per case have to get in touch with you guys to?
So typically the way that works is that if there is a support case that's opened, for example, in the last, during a release, and it's an impairment that we decide to fix all right, so we're in the middle of 519 right now, and if there's if you've opened a support case and it finds its way into being fixed, the decision really is made based on what the impairment. If we can get you something out early and just roll it one to the other, we end up doing the work in both versions, but
Okay.
it's not a it typically is something that happens at the first part of a release, where we've shipped it early, or we've shipped it and there's bugs, and we fix the bugs, and we fix them in both. But the features that are new to 520 are not going to be would typically not find their way into 19.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
So if there's a specific something that you've got a case on or want to open a case on, we can look at it at that case. But also bear in mind that and this kind of comes up. We just as a policy matter, we will do a hot fix in the current version. We don't ever hot fix prior versions. So like once 520 rolls out, we're not going to do anything more in 519. Now that 519 is out, we don't do anything in 518. So it's a hot fix to a current version as we do it in
Yeah, I guess I'm probably talking more like a feature pack, given that we're going to be trailing in the versions of PlanNav. I guess I'm asking more for, is there a possibility of a feature pack that you can apply to an older version? And it doesn't sound like that would be a focus for PlanNav.
Right. So part of what we get into is that from time, our general policy, we try and we do maintain compatibility for a year back on whatever the DNN version is. And typically it's much longer than that. I'm kind of interested. I can't do two things at once here, but I was kind of wondering how far what the previous one was. Let me find this here, DNN version. So, for example, with Evoke, like the most recent version of Evoke prior to 9.10.2 was 9.6.1, came out in November of 21. But
yeah, unfortunately, we just did our last upgrade on that version, and Evoke quickly went to a higher version. So yeah, we're just sensitive to the fact that we have to stay current.
And yeah, I understand it's a difficult thing to go through the upgrades, but it's from our side, it's difficult to do the things that we're rolling out in and support 9.3.2 and 9.6.2 and all, and there's a juggling act that goes on. So we
understood for sure.
Yep. All right. So
thanks, Dale.
Sure. Someone else.
Hey, Dale, Jerry here. On that similar topic, I heard you say something that has been a question I've had for some time on upgrading, doing our updates and our configuration. If I'm on version and I'll just back up a version so it makes it relevant. If I'm on version 1.18 and there are hot fixes and updates to be had, but 1.19 is available, if I just upgrade to 1.19, will I inherit all those hot fixes, or should I try and keep those hot fixes up to date before jumping to the next higher version?
Good question. In general, the hot fixes that we release in general are also in the next version. So there's no, in most cases, there's no benefit to getting your 1.18 hot fixes applied and then going to 119. You can go
Perfect. That's the answer I was looking for. As I'm migrating to from trying to keep a few of these sites up on date. I try my best to keep updated when the hot fixes come out, but sometimes you go to sleep for a week and you wake up and there's 6 more hot fixes, but then it's time to move on to the next version. I just did not know how to do the proper path to stay on top of things.
So
thank you.
A lot of times the hot fix doesn't apply to you. So that, I mean, you can, there's no problem in not taking one if it doesn't apply to you. Excuse me. But also there are times when they become real important, and that really comes up in this next release for people people who are going into the into 1.20, because this upgrade of DNN is required. People who are using the community, if you'll take the hot fixes offered in 119, you'll gain the ability to automatically upgrade DNN. So sometimes it's kind of important. I mean, you could skip it. You could upgrade DNN as you always have, but we've added this one-click installer that is going to make it real easy. So there's, like I say, when a hot fix applies to you, that becomes real important to grab and install, and then in this case, it's going to help you move to 1.20.
Right. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, my general attack on this is to just do upgrades, hot fixes, whether I need them or not, just so I feel like I'm on the latest and greatest version. But I do have a circumstance where I have one older website that I need to actually migrate from 1.15 all the way up to 1.19, and there's hot fixes along the way. So I just thought, okay, so my migration path for something like that would be to go to 1.16, 1.17, 1.18, and then finally get to 1.19, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
we're good.
And that brings up another point that is sometimes confusing. On our downloads page on the console.planetapp.com, you can download various versions of App Builder, but you'll see there we've worded strongly against, you don't want to skip versions. You don't want to go from 115 to 119.
Right.
The safest path is to use the one-click installer every time. And so we provide the older versions for convenience and for certain people who are like jumping, who need to jump in at a particular version in the first place. Okay. But it might seem like it's a good idea, but it's a bad idea.
Good to know. Thank you.
Hey, Dale, I have a question about that upgrade DNN new feature, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
What are the parameters for that? Because sometimes upgrading DNN is kind of a big deal. So you have to be on the previous version, or what can you tell me?
So with at a high level, right? I wasn't involved in the coding, but in seeing the explanation, what you'll see the button does is offer the next recommended step. So it'll say you are on version X, and if the DNN recommended step is to go from that to something else, it's only going to step you one at a time. If you can go directly from 991 to 910.2, then it offers 910.2. Is that the question you're asking? So if there's if DNN recommends an intermediate step from wherever you are to the current version, then it's going to offer the intermediate step. And so you would click that button. It would take you. All it does is unzip the zip and launches the dialog for you. Just makes it very, very easy. But you still have to provide. You still have to interact with the DNN. To provide the host credentials in order to complete the upgrade, and then it installs it. It launches your site. You still need to do all the same level of care that you would do if you were doing it manually, meaning back up the file system, back up the database. You want, I mean, things can go wrong just as if you were doing the upgrade manually.
Right. Is that a separate action, separate from upgrading plant and app?
Currently, yes. There's talk about rolling them together, and I don't know where that will go. But at the current time, they're separate actions. And for example, if you're at 119 and we offer plant and app version 120. You try to click on it, it's if you're not up to the current DNN version, it won't install. So we're also offering the button to upgrade DNN. So
okay, well, my first thought is I would probably want it to remain separate, just because a lot of times there are issues when upgrading DNN. Like, I'm not always on the one previous version. I'm like down on 9.8 for some reason, or even lower. And well, it's not always a clean process for upgrading DNN. So I would like it, I would think I would want it to be a separate action, so that if one fails, I'm not in a mess with both.
okay. So note that Bogdan is not on the call. So, and I think Patrick is taking notes. So Patrick, would you capture that for me, please? So we'll take that into consideration as we're trying to figure out if we combine it. I heard Bogdan talking about wanting to combine it, but I understand your concern. From our side, part of the problem, part of the benefit of doing that, we know that there are, it becomes a more tested path to keep plant and app tied together with DNN. So we're trying to keep that, trying to run plant and app on an appropriate version of DNN. And when it's manual, people do fall behind. So we're trying to make that process easier. But I can see your point about keeping it.
Okay. Well, while you're talking about that, I'd like you to just some input from my side of the fence, and that is that, there are other modules in my DNN, and they can't all be upgraded each time Plant and App comes out with an upgrade. They have to go through an approval process to make sure they're ready for the next DNN. And sometimes some websites have a lot of modules to worry about. So tying that together is going to put me in a bind. What it's going to do is going to cause me to be forced to not upgrade Plant and App until the other modules are ready to go up to that next DNN. Mm-hmm. So by tying it together, just looking ahead, I'm thinking that's going to force me to become behind.
Okay. I think it's a good point, and I will definitely bring it to the product team.
We're kind of in the same boat, Mark.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, hi Dale, Augusto here. I think that one of the main barriers is with websites. I completely agree with what Mark was mentioning before. If you have a site based on DNN that has been running for some time, the main barrier is not upgrading DNN, but all the third-party components or things that were built, custom built for that site, that might not be compatible with the latest DNN release. and that create, I mean, you need to plan with some time ahead to see the impact of that upgrade. So if we can't upgrade to the latest plant and app release without upgrading also the core, the DNN core, for some of us, that is going to be an issue. Yeah.
Okay, well, and like I say, I've heard it mentioned, but there's been no concrete plans to do that. And I know that's complicated by those who are on Evoke as well. We're not, for example, even offering the one-click upgrade of DNN in that scenario. So I don't see, perhaps we will, perhaps I jumped the gun in even talking about that. As a general policy, we continue to support DNN one version back, so that, excuse me, 1 year back. So at least, so that should allow the time to keep things aligned.
Well, you just answered my question, because I was going to ask and say, I'm assuming this is for platform only and not Evoke, but you just answered that. So yes, it's platform only.
Yeah, but I mean, for the 1 year back thing, that's yes, for platform, yes, correct. I see your point. Yep. Cool. All right. What else?
Dale, I wanted to check with you if there were plans to improve support for versioning in the context of plant and app. For example, right now you have a connector for GitHub, I believe. I wanted to know if there is some discussion internally to expand that perhaps to GitLab or just to Git repositories in general. Because one of the things that we would like to start using is that built-in support for versioning, the work that you do with plant and app. Right now, we are using a sort of manual process, but it would be great if we could connect plant and app, in particular if you have, for example, plans to build complex applications using plant and app. I think that it would be great to be able to version constantly or periodically what you build, or before starting to make large changes or experimenting with some features or large changes in an application that it's already working. So what I saw is there is some support already for example, for exporting and being able to recreate workflows. Action forming and action grid already supported that feature or that capability of being able to export a module instance on a page to an XML file and then be able to recreate that same instance on a separate page. We use that feature, for example, for moving things that we build in one environment, in a development environment, to an station environment or to production. And I would like to know if you plan to expand that, for example, to other components like entities, because perhaps I'm missing something, but I didn't see a way to export the entities that you design with plant and app using that same import-export feature.
Right. So of course, the older, excuse me, the ones that are that you're able to export and import are modules, and then when you're talking about things like entities and workflows, they're not modules. They're data within the system. So that's why we're not seeing. I mean, that's by way of explanation why the same export import doesn't work. One of the objectives that we plan for the next version of Plantain App 1.21 is to take on exactly this issue, being able to move from in the multi-environment development to staging to production, however many steps you have in between. So, and really that's the planning that's coming up in the very near future, even right after this meeting. So any thoughts that you have on what that should look like? I mean, this would be a great time to talk about the needs that you have. We have ideas about what we think ought to happen, and I'm from my limited understanding of it, the GitHub functionality is key to that. That everything that if you set up a connector and all the information within your environment is going to GitHub, and then being able in some form or fashion to release those changes to the next level. So that's the direction that we're going. If anybody has bullet points that you want me to make sure we consider, I would be happy to take those.
Yeah, that would be great, Dale. Another thing that I saw that it would be great if it could be improved in some way is that if you work in the context of a team, you need to spend some time coordinating with other people that work with you, because it's not easy to see who is modifying what. So, for example, if you are working on the same page or on the same form, there is no feedback at all about if someone else is also modifying the same action form, or if it's been edited, something like that. I don't know if that is the best solution, but it will be very, very helpful, because, for example, in the app that we are designing, we have several components already. We have workflow, we have entities, we have forms, and there is more than a single person working on those things. So it will be great to see if someone else is editing at least some of those components.
And when you say that, are you talking about, for example, as you're going into the editor to see some form of feedback that other editing is taking place or has taken place, versus in the repository?
Exactly. Right now we don't have a solution for the repository, because we don't have our repos in GitHub, so we are not able to use that connector that it's available with Plantain App. So that's why I was asking you if there were plans to include something else besides GitHub.
And out of curiosity, what repository are you?
We use GitLab.
GitLab?
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, I just asked that to make sure that we're considering other connectors or saying, no, I don't know the policy. I'm just asking, what other people use or want to.
Sure.
And while we're on that point, is there other connectors that we should be considering?
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Or something more generic, perhaps for being able to connect any Git repo. Because right now, if you don't have your repo in GitHub, you are not able to use that versioning that Plantain App provides out of the box. So what we are doing is basically approach this in a manual way. Someone in our team need to export, but But the thing is that that manual process is prone to errors, because if someone forget to do that export, you might lose some work. So.
And to be clear, at this point, we are saving the information to GitHub. We don't yet have the versioning that you're talking about. That's where we're trying to get to in our next version of Plant and App.
Oh, okay.
So everyone's doing what you're talking about, the manual move and subject to the to forgetting or not moving something. So that's what we're trying to solve. So I don't know enough about it with regard to like GitLab to know that, I mean, potentially, I mean, in a perfect world, we could provide a connector to different kinds of repos, but whether they act the same, whether there's a common kind of interface, or whether we would whether that would overcomplicate our versioning, I don't know. So, but this is exactly the kind of information I was asking for, to see if we can include it.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else with bullet points about this versioning, this staging, development, staging, production, what you'd like to see?
If I may, I just would like to say that all of the, I mean, we have the module, I think I had mentioned this before, we have the module import export as a programmatic action. I'd like to be able to see a programmatic action for all of the other internal data import exports. So, you know, my tokens, APIs, Sharp Scheduler, all of those, and anything in the future that comes out, such as entities or whatever, to somehow give us the ability to programmatically have an action that we can export that information out, save it to a file or whatnot, and re-import it, because that could help us at the very least, potentially give us the ability to program our own way of keeping code synchronized between different instances, or being able to push changes to another instance or whatever without having to be too manual, where we can actually program it and then just hit a button and then, you know, have things process.
Yep, makes sense. If you maintain a list, meaning some form of a digital list, here are the changes we've made, or that you want to be part. I've seen this before in a very old product, one that I worked with 20 years ago, that the concept was bundling, and you could include content that you wanted. You made a decision about what could be included or not in the bundle, and then that transported. So if all the things that you're talking about, various modules, various subcomponents like workflows and jobs and things could transport then in the bundle, then you, as the developer / project manager, you can make a decision. So I see what you're talking about is kind of in that model. Anyone else with? Oh, I've got a lot of seconds on that. Okay. Other suggestions that we can consider as we're trying to do versioning.
Is there something in the short term, Dale, that we could ask Plant and App to provide in terms of manually exporting the data for a particular form, whatever is contained in the database? So if we wanted to take a form that we develop in the development environment, we want to move it to our staging or test environment, how do we do that? So if we have to take the page and whatever modules are on the page, but also take the data that supports that form, the Plant App entity, the workflows, how do we manually export that and manually import it to some other database? Is that possible?
So I think that's what's kind of under discussion here now.
Yeah.
The module itself, and any module can be exported and imported, and it's just relying on the DNN import-export functionality, and that
Right.
can be done through actions. So, that part of it can move. But in terms of it being data aware for entities and for the entity structure, for the entity data, it does not. The related workflows, it does not. So it's your responsibility at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm asking, is it possible to get the proper query to pull the stuff out of the one environment and then create the insert statements or updates to put it into another environment? This is before you guys develop the features inside your solution. Is there a way for us to do that on the database side manually? Or is that just as much work as you guys developing it in your solution?
Well, I think so, especially considering, I mean, I don't know for certain. Again, I'm more on your side of this than on the development side, but I mean, we're talking about taking this up for solving it in 1.21. We're starting 1.21 in a week or so. So, but these kinds of things it might make sense to include them in the solution, right? That
got it. Yep.
I mean, we are in advance of this actually taking shape. So these ideas, to me, it would make sense to do it as if I can point to different elements and say I want to be able to import and export these, that could be a piece of a bigger solution. But again, I don't know what they have in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Still.
Sure. Someone else. Okay, I'm going to go on to some other topics, but we can circle back with this, or I think, yeah, if you don't have it, my email address, dale.warner@plantonapp.com. So if you have more ideas on that topic, do let me know, or you can just put it in the feedback form that again, we've hyperlinked from this. I took a look right before the meeting. There were no new contributions to the Campfire website. For anybody who is new to the group, we have a website, campfire.plantonapp.com. And if you attend this meeting, I'll be happy to set you up with access to it. The idea is that you can see some functionality in action rather than handy things that people have developed and shared with the community. You can actually open it up, see what's there, see how it works, maybe save you some time as you're developing. So that's definitely a resource worth taking a look. Anybody who is not part of this and is part of this group, put your email in the chat to me and I will happily add you to this. And this falls under the category of be nice and be courteous. We give a lot of openness to this website, so be gentle if you get into it. There was there's two different things that we could go into now: feature requests and for beta. I do not see Bogan on the call, so I think we are just right on the verge of opening up the beta period, and I haven't heard if it was decided to do that or if it's going to be delayed anymore. So I think we had hoped to talk about it here today. I don't have word yet. Patrick, do you have any new information?
No, I don't.
Okay. So in the absence of that, I'm going to say it's not starting yet, but it may start even yet later today. So anybody who's participating in the beta program, That is on the portal beta program. And if you want to participate in that, let us know. We will be happy to see if that, I think most people who apply to this are accepted. And the idea is just to provide an opportunity to test before we release. I said it in our other webinars that there's a whole lot that changed in version 1.20, and we're anxious for your feedback. And my understanding of what's going on within our company next week is that, or the week immediately after we release the beta, is that we're going to be focusing on anything that turns up in the beta period, that we're not immediately jumping into our next release and the sprints that are related to that, but rather leaving time in the schedule for anything that is uncovered by our beta testers. So we're hoping to be very responsive in dealing with those things. And in that light, we've been getting a lot of feedback on the experimental version 1.19 that had a lot of Bootstrap 5 conversion done, the ability to switch to Bootstrap 5. We've gotten a lot of feedback and a lot of useful things that we've been chasing down. We want to work very hard to make it possible. We are working very hard to make it possible for you to take advantage of Bootstrap 5. It would be, there will likely be hot fixes to 1.20, and it'll be as a result of the things that you guys discovered. So if you put in the effort, we will put in the effort on our side. Any questions about that?
I just want to jump in on that,
Please.
Dale, real quick. Usually I get the information from Bogdan regarding the beta stuff. So as soon as I get word that it's active and running, an email will go out to everyone part of the program. So I'll send out an email, make sure everyone is aware that it's now open and ready for people to start getting it.
Perfect. And I know you post, I think our team is putting together the list of what is, what's changing, what features to test. And that goes part of it too, right? You import that into the program. So
yeah, the system automatically keeps that in sync periodically. So as you guys are updating your backend stuff, it gets updated on the portal itself.
Perfect. I think that's part of what our team is working on now. So we again hope to get that out very quickly. And then my understanding too, I wasn't really clear about it. I asked about it yesterday. Apparently, when bugs are reported in the system, that's firing off emails that are being picked up directly by the development team, which is correct. Which is cool, because I don't want to have to be a middleman on that one. It's you put them in, put your findings in, and it goes right to people who can do something about it. So
right. The only thing that I would suggest and ask, I'll be fixing it eventually, shortly, hopefully, when I have some time. But it was noticed that you could enter in bug reports to old releases. Don't do that, please. Once a window for a release is over, all bug submissions for that version should cease, mainly because the developers are not going to be going backwards and looking at old entries. So if you have a release or a bug to submit, at this point, if the beta is closed, the best option is to go through the console ticket submission portion of it and submit it directly. Soon we're going to have a submission form for outside of beta testing for reports and stuff like that. So once that's up and running, everyone will have access to that, and that won't be limited to any particular release or whatnot.
Oh, good. Thanks. That's good feedback. Yeah, we the beta program is really intended for the current release. Absolutely. So with that, I'm going to move on, I think, to feature requests. There have been a number of you that have been taking advantage of adding feature requests into the community portal. And as we start into the version 121 planning, it's our intention to take some of the things that are here. And actually, I'm pretty sure that some of the things that are in here have found their way into the product already. So those, it'll be interesting to see that. But I believe we're already seeing some of them in there. Just because as the idea comes up, it's like, yeah, man, we should do that. And man, that's dirt simple, easy. Let's get it done. Yeah, the idea is that if you'll put these in, that they'll work. I mean, we cannot do everything, but the idea of what's there, that's what we want to provide what the community is. So some of these are going to make it into 1.21. With that, there's this is your opportunity if you have contributed something. Well, first I'll say, if anybody is not part of the community portal, you should go out there, community.planetonapp.com. This is a great, it's easy to sign up, sign in, and so you can do feature requests, you can do the forum, which is, we see great answers all the time where people submit particular problems, get great answers from the community, and not have to wait on support. Maybe the answers are better than support, but anyway, participate in that. But there's still time to jump in here and put in a feature request. And then if anybody, this is a spot where you can lobby for, we'll open up the floor here. Anybody wants to get this, by the way, here's the QR code if you want to, or you can jump to, just jump to the section directly. But here's your chance to lobby for votes, and we have a voting mechanism, and if you agree that something that somebody is talking about should be high on our list, then we invite you to vote for it. That helps us figure out what you're thinking and what would be important to you. So with that, go. Who wants to lobby? Nobody cares.
I'll lobby for the ability to type in a date field. You like that, Dale?
I do.
I'm lobbying for something that's coming officially.
And do we have a status for wish granted? I don't know what we have here yet.
We actually do, top right corner. But that's only something that you see.
Okay. So this is
yeah, that's why I was actually going to mention it. If you could mention it at your meeting today. You guys, if you're going to be doing anything with these, update the status here so everyone knows.
great. So let's see what would be appropriate. This is in progress. You're going to see this in 1.20, so that's very soon. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. What else?
Dale, Jerry here.
All right, I knew I'd.
I'm going to lobby for that action to edit the image size, to have just a little bit of love to fix that one little thing on a selection box where we could size images to a specific size and the box be scaled appropriately to the image coming in.
Jerry, did you ever add that? I don't think you added that. As
I did not, and Ben, I apologize. I'm so neglecting on going onto these nice pages and putting in my thoughts. I get distracted and I go off and I program 10 other things, and then it comes back and haunts me. And that thing is giving me a haunt right now. I don't know that it would be a huge challenge for whoever wrote that module, but I'm willing to pay for it. You can note me in the record if that were to happen, but that would be sweet.
Well,
I forgot the
would-
exact
I would
name.
sug- I would suggest put it in here because that's the only way it's really going to be easily trackable, and lobbying for it to get votes and stuff like that, it's not going to happen unless you put something in here.
Well, let's get it in there.
Put it in there, Jerry. I'll vote for it.
Yep.
Believe me, I'll vote for it too.
Okay. Then on one of our calls, some weeks back, we had brought this topic to light, and I had gotten an email from somebody that said they might be able to help me with that they had had great success. And for the life of me, I thought that person was Jim Anthony, but apparently it wasn't, because when I reached out to him, he said it might be the other Jim. But does anybody remember jumping in there and sending me an email saying, hey, we might be able to work together on this and resolve this? If you do, maybe the action doesn't have to get manipulated and I could just learn how to do it. But if not, I'm definitely going to go put this in the future request immediately.
Yeah, so Jerry, that was me that said that. This is Mark. So yeah, I had a nice little timed reprieve from having to answer for my offer, since you didn't know who it was.
Oh,
But
okay, sorry.
I did actually. I looked into it. I found the place where I had used it. It wasn't exactly how I had remembered it, but I think that there are still things that I did that are similar that could help. So I have to finish packaging that so that you can see it, because it's
Okay.
actually on a dead website that is not out there to be seen. So
I understand.
yeah, but
Well,
I'm still looking into it for you.
Okay, well, I'm going to summarize just like in 30 seconds or less. Ben and I had this conversation, and Jim and I had this conversation. The module works right up to the point when you load an image into the system that is pretty big. Dale, it might be like 3,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels. And you want to just crop out a fixed 256 by 256. I'm just making these numbers up, guys. And so I don't want the user to be able to size the square. I just want to be able to position the square and click the button and it chops it out. But if you bring in a large image, Dale, the selection box is little teeny tiny because it didn't ratio with the size of the image. If you were to bring in an image that was much, much, much smaller, it would actually function. So it's just a little bit in getting that selection box scaled with the size of the image that's coming in, and we would be home free. But Mark, if you have a solution for that, man, that's just fantastic.
And that, thinking about that, I'm just kind of thinking about how that came to be. I suspect, the size of images, specifically cell phones, completely changed from the time that we developed that, and that's probably why it does what it does. And then I know that one of the requests that I don't know if it's in here at all. We've talked about at different times the ability to resize images programmatically, and I know that one of the people on the call has done something with that. Through can be done through RasorScript or whatever, but there's it would be cleaner if there were an action to do that. So,
I have considered, I've read a lot of our contributors posts and in our support systems and stuff, and I've not quite found the secret yet. I'm perfectly capable of, converting base 64, possibly changing the sizes, saving it back out. The challenge becomes is this particular application needs to be hands-on by the user. And by user, I mean almost anybody. So the level of intelligence is going to be very broad as to who uses this editor. If it was just for me or one of my staff or one of my client staff, we could train them on it and it would be fine. But in this particular case, a less intuitive person just needs to be able to pull their picture in and move a square around and crop out what they need. That's all it needs to do.
Yeah,
if
I
it-
think, sorry, not to interrupt. I was just going to say, I think with regards to what Jerry is saying, because I have a lot of the same issues with the image editor, one thing that would go very far in alleviating at least a large chunk of the issues would be, honestly, if there was just a checkbox in the editing of that field where we could, that checkbox would say, adjust ratio to size of image uploaded. So if you don't check it, it behaves as is. But if you check it and you say 300 by 300 and it's a 3000 by 4000, then that 300 by 300 is going to adjust to
Yes.
be the size of the actual image that was uploaded. The main reason being, at least in my particular case, a lot of my users that use this are on mobile devices.
Exactly.
This is not an easy thing to do on a mobile device, especially if you allow them to change the size of the box, which is what you have to do to fix this issue right now. So trying to grab a little corner on something that looks like a dot on a phone is near impossible. So at this point, so many of my people, I just basically say, you cannot do the image editing on a phone. You have to do it on a computer. It's really the only way around it. But if we can get a one checkbox that says update ratio based off image uploaded, that I think would go a long way to fixing a lot of the issues.
Good to know. That's exactly what my findings were, Ben. It's just a ratio issue of all. And somebody had suggested either on the forum or here that we use a little JavaScript and in the UI interface and bring the picture in scale down. And I did that, and it actually brought a huge picture in and scaled it down to a reasonable size on my computer screen. But again, to your point, Ben, the selection box, which was hard set to 256 by 256, was still not ratio. It was just a tiny little box. And so, okay, I think we've beat this dead dog, Dale. If we could, that's my feature request, and I'm going to go out and put it in there just in a second, Ben, and maybe we can get some love on it someday.
Perfect. Okay, so we still have 3 minutes, or is there anybody that wants to lobby for votes on anything else that's in here? I've brought the ones that have gotten the most votes to the top already. I saw that we had a late arrival to the meeting, and if I understand your comment, Peter, it was the fact that daylight savings time is different from the EU for these last 2 weeks. It makes us crazy too. I see there's a proposal to quit changing our time altogether, and in the United States, and I would certainly be behind it. But yeah, we go back to being our normal offset from the rest of the world starting next week, I think.
Yeah, I think we are 2 or 3 weeks later with daylight saving time. So I got already beaten once this week.
Yep. Yeah, all of our meetings internally, trying to run an international organization, and everybody's meetings are in the wrong place. It's been a lot of fun for us. So I had to be okay with just not moving stuff around.
I know we only have like a minute left, but can I just like throw out one quick question? Just if anyone has ever come across this, if you haven't, whatever, but if you have, email me, because it's been driving me a little batty. On a grid set to auto update every, let's say 10 seconds, it works for a while without a problem. Randomly, it will just decide to blow up and give me a conversion failed when converting date and or time from character string. If I hit F5 on the keyboard to refresh the page, it's perfectly fine. And it's sporadic. There's no rhyme or reason to it. The page could be sitting there. It refreshes for 2 hours perfectly fine. Sometimes it'll refresh for 5 minutes and then crash, whatever. But has anyone else come across that?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever found a way to fix it other than refreshing the screen?
I don't. I actually, I have been assuming, and I don't know this to be the case, I've been assuming that it's, you know, a sporadic internet connectivity issue that, because it seems to run for like forever, and then all of a sudden,
Right.
you know, and I know for me, if, you know, I leave, for example, the support queue up overnight, when I walk away at 5 o'clock, you know, that's a dream. When I walk away at 6:30, it's there. When I come back the next day, I have to refresh the screen. So one of the things that I tried in that regard was to set up a browser refresh as well, to refresh the page. Whatever the syntax is for an HTML refresh, and that doesn't work too, because once whatever the connectivity thing is that's broken, it's also broken at the HTML level. So until I go back and look at the page, the browser doesn't refresh it. So I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I thought about a browser refresh, but my fear with that is that if I'm doing something on that page, if I'm adding a new entry or whatever, which is a pop-up, if that browser refresh kicks in at that moment, I lose everything that I was just working on. So I can't do something like that.
Yep, and I absolutely agree. I'm just saying, you're not missing anything. It doesn't solve the issue.
Yeah.
At least for
Well,
me.
at least I know I'm not losing my mind because, like I said, sometimes this can run for the entire day perfectly fine. Other times it can run for a few hours. Sometimes I literally come in, it'll run for 5 minutes perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden I get that, you know, big red error message.
Yep.
You know, the SQL
I
situation.
will
It's
ask
just
the
random.
question to see if there's anything we can do about it. But since I did that refresh, automatic refresh, and it doesn't work, I suspect that it's more of a connectivity thing. That something, whether it's my assumption is that, but it may be fixable. I'll ask the question. How do we?
So Ben, have you tried watching memory usage during the day? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really see any changes or, you know, anything out of the ordinary. You know, nothing gets slower or anything like that. It's just that one page. Like I said, you know, when it happens, sometimes I have so many windows open. It could be in the background. You know, my main project that I see this a lot on is something that I use to track my time that I work on certain things on. So it's constantly running in the background somewhere, and then when I flip back to that screen, I see this error. So the only way to fix it, I just hit F5 on the keyboard, refresh the page, and everything's perfectly fine. So it's not like something detrimental that like blew up and then I have to be rebooting or anything like that. A simple page refresh fixes it. But yeah, it's like Dale said. I mean, it's like something hiccups and interrupts the refresh, and then once that happens, you're dead in the water until you refresh.
You can also keep your console open. Maybe you see something.
You can watch the memory usage. Let's say if you're using Chrome, you can watch just Chrome's memory usage in the console. And you know, I had a situation like that. I had to watch Chrome's memory usage, and I was able to figure out what I was doing. It was actually a field on a form quite a while ago that was causing the issue, and that's been resolved since now. But you can watch the memory usage. I suggest it might be running out of memory.
Well, thanks for that suggestion. I'm going to check that too and see if it's memory or if there's anything that we can do about it. It makes sense as a feature for us. I mean, I'm thinking about this in terms of a dashboard being able to display continuously what's going on, and if it blows up, then it's not a very good dashboard. So I'll surface that to our product team, see what we can do. So with that, we've gone beyond the end of our hour, and I'm late for that next meeting that's going to get you all the new features in 1.21. So I'm going to call it here. Thank you guys all for attending. It's been another great meeting. We will be here again, or at least Bogdan will. I think I'm out next week, but Bogdan will be here for Low Code Campfire, and we'll see you then. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you
Thanks.
later.
Bye,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks.